you, Mr. Chairman. Many experienced people have talked about the human rights situation in Pakistan, so I will therefore touch upon those issues, but mainly concentrate on my native land, which is Kashmir. So first of all, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the organizers of this event. Your relentless efforts for peace and stability in South Asia are highly commendable. I am honored that you have invited me to join your quest and share my views. I am a young Kashmiri brought up in the free world. This free Western society has taught me that human beings are all the same with some inalienable rights. I have been taught not to differentiate between rich and poor, between black and white, or between a Muslim, Hindu, a Christian, or a Jew. I have been taught that every human has the right to freedom and peace, a right which for many in the West only became a reality after the horror of the Second World War. I am thankful to this Western society for my grooming, but I cannot abstain from making the observation that unlike in the West, where the concept of human rights was conceived only decades ago, these norms and values have existed in Kashmir for millennia. Tolerance, peace, brotherhood, and humanism has been our way of life until war and bloodshed has extinguished the candle of Kashmirian. The Mughal Emperor Jahangir said about Kashmir, "I do not understand what type of Muslims are found in Kashmir, because there appears no difference between them and Kashmiri Hindus. They share each other's customs and traditions to the extent that they celebrate feasts together." The war of prestige between India and Pakistan, with Kashmir as its battleground, killed our innocence and somewhat taught us to differentiate. Until then, saints like Sheikh Nuruddin of the Muslims was Nundreshi for the Kashmiri Pandits, and Laleshwari of the Kashmiri Pandits was Lala Arifa for the Muslims. I've come here to tell the world, including India and Pakistan, that we Kashmiris are fed up with violence and bloodshed. Azadi, jugular vein, or integral part are terms which do not mean much to us at this moment. As of now, our immediate interests are peace and regaining our lost identity of Kashmirian. Although some might say that peace is only achievable once a solution to the Kashmir problem is found, I respectfully disagree with that narrative. Why should solutions be imposed when peace and regaining our identity is more imperative? I believe that Kashmiris, and especially the younger generation, have matured considerably and are longing for stability. I also believe that peace is interrelated with overcoming ignorance. The younger generation realizes that in order to live in peace and subsequently find a solution to the Kashmir problem, the Kashmiris first need to build a thinking of their own without interference from India and Pakistan. They know that there is an urgent need for reconciliation among themselves in order to build consensus based on the principles of Kashmirian. They also realize that problems are not solved by stone pelting or sloganeering. They know that in this new world order, problems are solved on the negotiating table by having an intellectual approach instead of firing Kalashnikovs in the streets. Finally, they have also realized that they will have to make themselves worthy of taking a seat at the said negotiating table. I am proud to say that my generation has comprehended the saying of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that the ink of the scholar is worth more than the blood of the martyr. A certain change of mindset, which includes a transition from disengagement to engagement and a transition from policies characterized as being pro-national interest to policies characterized as being pro-people, are required to diminish the trust deficit between India and Pakistan. Meanwhile, there is also an urgent need to attend to the trust deficit between Indian administrated Kashmir and New Delhi and Pakistani administrated Kashmir and Islamabad. withdrawal of paramilitary forces in both parts of Jammu and Kashmir, revocation of laws like AFSPA and PSA, immediate halt to terrorism and religious extremism sponsored by elements in the Pakistani military establishment and extremist religious parties, release of all political prisoners in Indian and Pakistani administrated Kashmir, establishment of judicial inquiry commissions on disappearances and political killings like that of Arif Shahid last year, rehabilitation of Kashmiri Pandits, and opening up of the borders in order to facilitate people-to-people interaction are immediate steps which could provide some relief to the Kashmiri people and initiate an atmosphere of tranquility. I also regard economical development as being an important stimulus to peace. I fail to see any reason why basic fundamental rights like education, healthcare, employment, and the pursuit of happiness should be kept hostage to the solution of the Kashmir problem. The Kashmir problem undoubtedly requires a political solution, but first the people of Kashmir and India and Pakistan are in urgent need of liberation from fear and uncertainty. It certainly does not mean that I am content with the status quo, but I believe there is a need to alter the approach undertaken to change the said status quo. Long-lasting solutions can only be achieved while having an atmosphere of friendship, brotherhood, and mutual trust. The young generation, my generation in Kashmir, should take a lead in safeguarding the interest of the people. Instead of pointing fingers towards India and Pakistan, they should feel obliged to actively bring about a change by becoming part of the political framework in Indian and Pakistani administrated Kashmir. The negative connotation attached to electoral politics should be broken, as it is the only way in which we Kashmiris can address our day-to-day problems. Educated, honest and committed people are needed in the power corridors of Srinagar and Muzaffarabad to build bridges with New Delhi and Islamabad, while they work for the upliftment of their own people. I personally have my reservations regarding the UN resolutions on Kashmir, especially those which mention a plebiscite in which Kashmiris can choose to be part of either India or Pakistan. But supporters of these resolutions and this plebiscite should rest assured that the UN Resolution 91 of 1951 clearly stipulates that elections do not substitute a plebiscite. It means that one can provide relief to his own people and groom his nation without abandoning his ideology. The Indian National Congress and Muslim League during the British Raj and PLO in Palestine more recently are examples in this regard. Kashmiris are in need of young and visionary leaders who will do away with mere rhetoric and deliver at least freedom from violence and hatred. Daily calls for strikes, terrorist attacks, political encroachment, negligence of natural resources, event-based separatism, intrusion of fundamentalism and discrimination on the basis of gender, caste, tribalism and religion will neither make a difference to India or Pakistan, nor will it realize objectives like independence or accession. It will only ruin Kashmir and Kashmiris. In order to save our future generations and preserve our culture and heritage, we Kashmiris need to introspect, revisit our strategy, and formulate alternative narratives. Instead of becoming part of proxy warfare, we Kashmiris should formulate and become part of proxy peace initiatives between the two countries. Perhaps freezing the Kashmir issue as proposed by the chairman of JKDLP, Hashim Qureshi, could be used as a reference point for further discussions and elaborations in this regard. It is said that men fight war to live in peace. Unfortunately, almost 70 years of ongoing proxy war has not yet succeeded in achieving peace in South Asia. Kashmir, hostility and distrust have compelled India and Pakistan to spend huge amounts of their annual budget on defense, amounts which could be used to fight poverty, illiteracy and disease in their own respective countries. This conduct has only contributed to radicalization fundamentalism which eventually gives birth to terrorism. I firmly believe that the solution to the Kashmir issue, according to the wishes and aspirations of the majority of the people living in Jammu and Kashmir, which includes Pakistani administered Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan, Jammu, Ladakh, and the Kashmir Valley, is fundamental to long-lasting peace and prosperity in the region. Two fundamentals which should be superior to anyone's ideology or stated positions. The proposed withdrawal of allied forces from Afghanistan will pose new challenges to peace in the region. Pakistan has paid a heavy price for its reliance on militancy as an integral aspect of the country's defense strategy. And democratic forces appear to be sincere and committed to peace, as the war on terror has effectively transformed into Pakistan's war for survival. At the same time, there is growing realization among the intelligentsia in India that Kashmiris are in need of restoration of their dignity. It also realizes that domestic and regional peace is essential for its political and economic aspirations on the world stage. These developments and Kashmir's exhaustion with violence should urge the new and young generation of Kashmir to embark upon a path of reconciliation and harmony. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize that if we begin to think of our future on the basis of past bitterness, it will only lead to our mutual decline and the destruction of my and coming generations. That we must not allow.